I have a bit of a problem because I'm run out of stock of quite a lot of things that I sell. So here I am busily making the bodies for my oyster catcher, which is sold out. So I've just got another 8 on the way. Just thinking about selling and buying automata. I think there's 2 different groups of people who buy them. First of all, there's collectors. I think are probably quite a small group actually. Very enthusiastic, but automata tend not to be inexpensive, and also they take up a lot of room. So there's only so many automata a person can collect really. The other group are, I suppose you could call them casual buyers or emotional buyers. They're people who've seen something and for some reason they have a connection with it. Maybe it's for a gift for somebody, maybe it's themselves, maybe they want to remember something or recall something. Collectors, fairly easy group to get to because they're keen, so actually they'll find you if you're making automata to any extent, and actually getting out there and publicising it a little bit. And certainly my first sales were to collectors, and that was through YouTube. Back in 2007 I had started a little website, and I used YouTube to hold the videos so that it didn't use too much bandwidth on my website. And I'm just smoothing this off here just to get rid of a few little bumps. And so these little 30-second videos, people who were interested in automata were looking at them, and that drew them to my website, and that's where my first sales came from. Nowadays, although I still do sell to collectors all around the world, I also sell quite a lot to the what I might call the emotional buyers, and they're a very different audience. So they're not looking on YouTube to find things to buy. They're more likely to come from the social media, or from media in general really, magazines, etc. They spot something, oh, that looks good. And certainly I think probably my biggest point of contact perhaps is to start with Pinterest. I also do a little bit on Instagram and also Facebook, but Pinterest seems to be the one that brings people in. Nasty ridge on it, so I just sand it off a little bit more. Quite like this Proxon BSE something or other, the number's worn off, but they only make one, but quite handy. The only problem is it isn't mains, so you've got the wire stuck on it, but really useful for just smoothing things down to save a lot of sanding. This week I've sold 2 automata. One of those sales came via a posting I did on Instagram back in 2021, and the other one came from Etsy, through Etsy. Unfortunately, neither of the items do I have in stock, so I've had to put them on the order list. Some people are willing to wait. I don't actually do a lot on Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook. I sort of post the fact I put these YouTube videos. I spend most of my time doing videos on YouTube, which is probably why I've got no stock. Of course, they are actually quite time consuming. Actually, it's probably the worst thing I should be doing if I want to get more sales, because as I say, the emotional buyer is not spotting them on YouTube. YouTube acts as a good secondary source, so if people spot you somewhere, they want to see that you have some substance and see what you do. And I have my website and I have my YouTube channel, and it's sort of proof. People can look on that and see, oh yes, he does this, he does that. Probably as I don't have a great affinity for social media, I have to say. And also, there's not a lot of point in bringing extra buyers in if you haven't got stock to sell to them, is there? It can be a time-consuming job making automata. I tend to do just a couple of hours at a time. What I'm going to do next, when I've finished sanding these down, is I'll paint them with Artist Gesso, just to fill any grain. There's a little knot on that one, look, for instance. just fill that in, and then I'll sand them down again, and then paint them with acrylic paints and a few coats of varnish, finishing with a matte coat, because I think that gives a nice finish. Etsy I found to be a useful place to sell automata. I sell in two places, on my website and on Etsy basically. Etsy, as I say, is the one that where you'll find automata collectors, but you'll also find quite a lot of people who are just looking for ornaments or gifts or that sort of thing will come across you. And it's been a good source of business. It's quite cheap entry into Etsy. I think it's what, 20 US cents for 3 months per item. That's your only risk, really. One or two disadvantages, well, one big disadvantage for me is they get you to pay for their advertising whether you want to or not. Because I've been with them a long time, they charge me 12% plus taxes, etc. So it's getting up towards 15 by the time you're done, I suppose. And if somebody clicks on their advert and gets to your site, any subsequent order they charge this ongoing really. And I don't really want them advertising for me. It's no great advantage for me, it's only an advantage for them, and I'm paying for it because I'm giving that Etsy an extra 15% when it would have sold anyway. But there's nothing you can do about it, and it makes pricing difficult because you don't know if you're going to get hit by this 15%, and if it's on one of the bigger items, that gets pretty costly. So I prefer by far to sell off my website, where you've got more control over the situation and a bit more contact with the customer. The other place I like selling, I can't say it's a commercially attractive place to sell, but very interesting, is craft shows, etc. I'm surprised really just how many people do buy at craft shows. They spot things that they might not have spotted otherwise, because if you go in the general high street you don't see too many automata, do you? And it's quite nice to actually meet the people who are buying them. I don't think I've ever really sold enough to craft show to make it actually worth going, but you meet a lot of people and you have to put it down as a day out, I suppose. But again, it's particularly if you're starting out, it's a useful thing to do. You get a bit of feedback. Of course, everybody will say, "Oh, that's very nice," but it feels even better when they back it up by buying it. And you've got the advantage that you've not got to spend a lot of time packing things up because they're already there to take them away. A lot of people have these little handheld devices, Zettels, etc. I don't really do enough craft shows. I just do local ones basically, in the village, etc. I don't have enough to justify that. So what I do, sometimes people just go away and find the cash and come back. Other times I get them to buy off my website there. I mean, most people have got the mobile phones and they can just make the purchase on my website through PayPal usually. And then I can hand them the item there and then. That actually works quite well. I mean, they're not the most inexpensive things, so it's worth people doing. Clearly, if you're only paying a couple of pounds or a couple of dollars, you wouldn't bother. But they are a little bit more than that. With this sandpapering, you never know when to stop. That's the trouble. Anyway, I'm just finishing the last ones of these now. Look, and thank you for staying with me and watching. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.